Those dogs, they're hunting, man. Hunted yesterday in Athens. Final score over Ole Miss was Georgia 52, Ole Miss 17. It was definitive. There was nothing left to speculation. There was nothing of, if they played that a couple more times, maybe it goes a different way. No. Georgia left absolutely zero doubt and clinched the East yesterday in the SEC. Booked their ticket to Atlanta yet again. We'll talk about it right now. First things first, make sure you're subscribed. We are pushing towards 200K subs. Georgia fans, just like Carson Beck, I believe, is pushing towards a little Heisman Trophy juice, if you will. So make sure you're dialed in right here. Want y'all a part of this. Also follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at JDPikel. A great way for us to interact and hear from y'all and get y'all involved in the show as much as possible. So we appreciate y'all in advance for doing both of those things. So going in, right, what was the whole narrative around this game? Supposed to be Georgia's toughest test yet. And I think on paper, from a roster perspective, from a strategy perspective, this was Georgia's toughest test yet. Now, the game itself didn't play out that way, but the test for Georgia defensively was going to be, hey, Lane Kiffin, he's going to attack the perimeter. On top of that, we know what it is with them, man. He's going to dial it up, got some tricks up the sleeve. I mean, Lane Kiffin, he said it before, get your popcorn ready. That was the feeling in this one. And what we said about Georgia, they didn't struggle stopping the run historically. They had struggled to set the edge effectively. And Ole Miss, they were going to test the edge. That was kind of their MO. That was who they were as an offense. And Georgia offensively, the test was going to be a couple of things. First was Ole Miss may force you to score with them. Like, we hadn't seen Georgia really be in shootout mode just yet. How would Carson Beck handle that? Well, spoiler alert, we didn't get to see because Georgia throttled them and defense handled business. But also, Pete Golding, DC for Ole Miss, he was going to dial it up. He was going to apply pressure. We talked about Missouri kind of, being the appetizer and Ole Miss being the entree in terms of applying pressure. Georgia just did what Georgia does, which is every single week, a Kirby Smart coach football team understands the mission, understands the assignment, and they meet it to the nth degree. Like this defense yesterday, they were just like a good spouse. Answered your call, they were dependable, and they stopped the perimeter run extremely effectively. Did Ole Miss still have some plays? For sure. No way around that. But I think with what Georgia did on the back end, those safeties, especially Javon Bullard, they came up and were thumping. And they did it now without some key pieces in the lineup. Jamon Dumas-Johnson not being in the lineup for Georgia. If they hadn't had that depth ready at the linebacker level, that could have hurt them by nature of how Ole Miss is going to attack them. So, held Quinshon Judkins to less than 100 yards. And we went into this game as well saying the same thing. If you're going to beat Georgia, you got to have an ace on the perimeter. You got to have a receiver that can go up and just bail you out of situations no matter what Georgia's doing in that front seven. Trey Harris was that guy for Ole Miss. Kamari Lassiter took him away. 2 receptions, 12 yards. That is such a luxury for Georgia to have a guy that you can just line up on their playmaker and say, you know what, we're shutting the water off. That's great that this is your guy, but we're going to take him away. It forces offenses, in the pass game at least, to have to go to their backhand. You want to go to your number one guy, Kamari Lassiter, take away Luther Burden. Kamari Lassiter, take away Trey Harris. Now, I understand it was sort of a by committee secondary effect yesterday, but I think he deserves a ton of credit. Want to make sure we highlight him yet again. Dude has been balling, has Kamari Lassiter. Now, offensively, the best way to put this in my mind, this offense is like a machine with a supercomputer at the core. A central processing unit that is Carson Beck that we have not yet seen be stumped. Like, you watch Carson Beck when he's out there, he has not had any moments. And when I say he hasn't had any moments like that, there's never been a moment where he's out there and he's confused by the defense or he's somehow off schedule or somehow they've gotten ahead of him. Like, every single week we've seen Carson Beck be as prepared as they come and put in the work behind closed doors and executed to a T. Like, make no mistake, Ole Miss, they made a plan to be exotic going into this week, and Carson Beck won on Saturday by preparation Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. He put in the work behind closed doors in the lab with the laser pointer in the film room. Like, he was ready for this one, and I think we saw the results. 18 of 25, 306 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a pick in the box score, y'all, but those y'all that watched the game, this interception was off his receiver's hands and sort of fortuitously bounced into the defensive back's hands as an interception. So even that wasn't a bad decision. When your quarterback is never confused, like Carson Beck is, you get to utilize to the nth degree all of your weapons. And for Georgia now, as they're starting to get healthy, had Ladd McConkey on the field last night, had Brock Bowers on the field last night, a superhuman getting back from that tightrope surgery in like 20-something days, just freakish in every sense of the word. When you have a quarterback who's able to process the defense the way that Carson Beck does, there's nobody they can take away from you. Because you're able then to, one, dial up winners as an offense, and two, execute winners as a quarterback with Carson Beck. Brock Bowers gets open, we hit him. Ladd McConkey gets open, we hit him. That's a luxury. That's not something that many quarterbacks, especially first-year starting quarterbacks, are able to do. And I want to make sure we say this too. We're going to say it, I think now for the second week in a row, Carson Beck deserves some very real Heisman juice. Very real Heisman juice. We want to talk about the Heisman like it's a team award. That's fine. Carson Beck, in my opinion, the best player on the best team right now. Deserves a ton of credit. Every single week, he's just surgical. And every single week, he's been the same guy. He's just getting better stages now. And I think those stages now, hopefully for him, are only going to improve. The depth on this offense continues to grow as they get healthy, like we mentioned. The thing with them now, as they get healthy on this depth chart, there's nothing you can key on against Georgia. Like they threw for 300. Y'all, they ran for 300 last night. Kendall Milton carrying the mail like FedEx. Dejan Edwards getting downhill with bad intentions. We already talked about Brock Bowers being back in the lineup. Dominique Lovett. He's really starting to hit his stride. Like there's nothing you can take away from Georgia and make them one-dimensional because they have other guys that are going to be able to hurt you if you give extra attention to 19, to Ladd McConkey, to Dominique Lovett. Whoever you want to try and pay extra attention to, like, they're going to hurt you. Now, Ladd McConkey, you hope he's all right and able to kind of be good to go here in the coming weeks. I know he was dinged up a little bit last night late in the game. But as a whole, man, as they get healthy, they get more and more scary. And we talked about it when Brock Bowers went down. There's no way to sugarcoat your best player and the best player in college football getting hurt. But the scary thing now for the rest of college football is Georgia was forced to play with a cast on for a little bit there. Like they were forced to have to dribble left-handed while their right hand was in a sling. And what happens when you don't have your go-to? Well, you get strong with that offhand, right? That's the Georgia offense right now. Without Brock Bowers, you asked more of Dominique Lovett. Without Brock Bowers, you asked more of the run game. And so as they get Brock Bowers now into the lineup, well, here's the deal now. A little ambidextrous from the Georgia offense. And with Carson Beck and the way that he's playing, they're different, man. They're different in every sense of the word. We don't see any weak points with Georgia offensively. I don't see any weak points really with this team. Like, this is not just a different Georgia in the sense of, well, it's not the 2022 team or the 2021 team. Like, it actually, on your TV screen, looks like a different team in my eyes. And it's not so much because you don't have Stetson Bennett playing. I think it's because of the pace they play at offensively, how efficient they look offensively. And I think defensively, they look like they're playing a little bit more with something to prove. And now with everything around the college football playoff rankings, the question now for Georgia is going to be, well, are they number one? Did they do enough to be number one and jump Ohio State? Like, for me, I don't know. I'll tell you this, if I'm a Georgia fan, when someone asks, hey, is Georgia be number one this week? I would say, I hope not. I hope not, because we said it before on here. This Georgia team, in my mind, every little sense of urgency you can muster for this team, they will pounce on it. They will take that log and throw it on the fire, and they will turn it into fuel, and they will be dangerous because of it. So whether they're at 2, whether they're at 3, whether they're at 1, like, I don't care if I'm a Georgia fan. I'm excited with the way they're playing, and I think the way they're trending now, again, is just dangerous. Y'all, that was supposed to be their best test, and they handled it with flying colors. Carson Beck continues to grow into his own. We said it before, we'll say it again. This Kirby Smart coached football team developing even more so, growing into their traits that he preaches, and they're playing their best football when it matters the most. Again, punch their ticket to Atlanta to see who else but Kirby Smart's former boss, Nick Saban. We'll talk about that one here in a little bit as well, but Georgia, yet again, throttling those dogs. They will, in fact, hunt. Make sure you're subscribed. Follow me on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, @JDPikel. Hey, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.